All of this as Trump faces his second brush with death via a gunman shooting at him in Palm Beach, Florida, just as happened in Pennsylvania, neither of whom were Haitian or any kind of immigrant, both of whom are white, American, Trump-supporting men with guns.
There's an interesting thing happening in America right now, and it's exposing the left. It's especially exposing the liberal corporate media for exactly what they are, man, exactly what they've become, which is just Democrat Party shills and Democrat Party propagandists. You know, we just witnessed the second assassination attempt of Donald Trump in as many months. And to hear these people tell it, it's the new normal, right? It's to be expected. And more than anything else, it's his fault. They believe that it's his fault. And MSNBC, man, just a day after it happened, they come out with this ridiculous article titled "The Problem with Trump Blaming Dems for Assassination Attempt," right? And it's pure freaking insanity. You guys, you got to look up this article, right? I'm not even going to dignify it with much of a response here, but it starts up, it lists 5 problems, right? And it says the first problem, it says, we don't know who the guy is or what his motivations are. And you know what? That's fair enough. We don't know as much as we should know. But if you just look at all this stuff in the aggregate, Donald Trump has been vilified for almost a decade now. And now, after just 10 years of insanity, every freaking crazy on the internet, every crazy in the world feels emboldened. I think it's pretty clear what their motivations are. And the second problem they list is the one that's really, really going to piss you off, right? Second, it says, you know, Trump clearly sees accusations that he's a threat to democracy as beyond the pale, right? But in their words, but in reality, the Republican candidate really has endorsed an authoritarian style vision that would undermine democracy. No proof, no examples, just this is, you know, hey, we know he doesn't like being called a threat, but he is one. A day after the second wacko came for him, right? MSNBC is completely insane. I mean, dude, we shouldn't call him a threat, but he is one because he endorsed an authoritarian style vision. I promise you, man, not one of these people who wrote that, no one who works there, no one who believes MSNBC is news, no one can explain that to you, right? No one knows what that means. And they will never ever be able to offer any evidence at all. They can't back their claims, right? They say Donald Trump is a threat and Kamala Harris, a candidate that was literally installed and is currently being protected by every bit of the machine, is the savior of democracy. I mean, these people are truly and completely insane. And you know they're insane because if you flip through the networks, you know, most responsible for the rhetoric, they can't even find crazy guests anymore. They're accidentally finding truth tellers just everywhere they turn.
What does the fact that he wanted to survive say to you?
It says that he's not he's not suicidal, apparently. He wasn't going to take his own life if he was almost being captured. Clearly, we saw that he was captured without that. And it tells me that he's probably much more politically motivated. The last shooter in Pennsylvania, I don't want to say his name because I don't want to promote him in any way, but he was clearly a guy that was looking for the notoriety of taking that shot. I would think we're going to find that this guy's extremely politically motivated and that he probably was spurred on by much of the political diatribes that are going on these days, talking about Trump, equating him to Hitler and things like that. So I don't think this is the last we'll see of crazies out there trying to do this.
I think it is so stupid and counterproductive to spend time trying to downplay the fact that the guy 2 times, there have been people trying to kill him over the last 90 days. We are not a country in which political violence can be condoned. And just because Donald Trump helped incite January 6th does not make 2 wrongs equal a right. Right? We need to be better than that. Not the same or worse. It is a bad thing that twice in 90 days, the nominee of one of the 2 major parties was the victim or the focus of an attempted assassination. Period. It does not matter if it's Democrat or Republican or independent or green or libertarian. It should not matter that it is Donald Trump, because we believe that this is not a good thing, or at least we should, that you do not resort to violence to try to get the means and end that you are aiming at.
It's pretty funny, really. Even the guy who just cannot help himself as he says, Donald Trump, yeah, he's an insurrectionist and blah, 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 just rattled off all the garbage. Even he says it's wrong to ignore this, right? He says it's wrong to pretend that this is normal. And he says just because it's Donald Trump under threat doesn't mean that it's okay. And he's right. He's absolutely right. And really, that is how a lot of these people are acting. And it's kind of amazing, man, when you think about it. The left will talk about January 6th daily. I mean, all freaking day, every day, if they could. They want you to believe that 4 hours on one day 4 years ago, 4 hours in all of American history is evidence that the right are violent and that they're dangerous and they're domestic extremists. But they ignore leftist mobs that have literally been destroying cities pretty routinely since the day of Donald Trump's inauguration, right? They ignore and they excuse literal anti-Jew, pro-Hamas Democrat demonstrators. They ignore violent threat after violent threat after violent threat. I mean, the left, actually, it's worse than ignore it. They condone it. They excuse it, right? But just listen to these people, man. The same people that have beat you over the head with insurrection garbage just repeatedly, almost freaking daily, if not daily. They literally use January 6th violence as a weapon against their opponents. They're now trying to tell you that we shouldn't even talk about these assassination attempts, right? Violence should not be used as either a sword or a shield. Basically, they're saying we can't talk about it because this is only going to help Donald Trump.
I really, I don't care what you feel about him or Harris. I mean, this is the expectation that he will be safe, and the reason why this is, in some ways, you said how close the election is. The problem is this is a safety issue that is being thrown into a very intense political environment in which the very fact of an assassination, a constitutional moment, because it could have impacted voters, will be used for political purposes, and that to me is just exceptionally unfortunate, because whatever your beliefs are, we do deserve to have campaigns that are not. Part that where violence isn't being used as either a sword or a shield.
The crazy thing is, man, these people are serious, man. She believes that after 4 years of the daily drip of January 6th, it's no longer fair to talk about the political impact of political violence. And even worse than that, man, they aren't even dedicating any time to talking about how this could happen or what's being done to ensure that there isn't a third freaking assassin being emboldened as we speak by these people right now. They're not dedicating any time to having an actual, real, genuine conversation about their own culpability, their own role in all this. They're not talking about any of that. They're just talking about how unfortunate it is that this is probably going to help Donald Trump get reelected. The people that say we shouldn't exploit political violence for political purposes, that's exactly what they're doing, as usual.
Some of the excerpt here from his interview that he did with Fox News Digital, where he says he, the shooter, believed the rhetoric of Biden and Harris and he acted on it. Their rhetoric is causing me to be shot at when I am the one who is going to save the country, and they are the ones that are destroying the country, both from inside and out. Again, sources say, though, that he is in good spirits and that the campaign is not going to change any of its previous plans. He had several events this week in Washington, D.C., as well as Michigan and Uniondale, New York. They say everything on his schedule is going to stay exactly the same.
Gloria Borger, I'll start with you. Give us your analysis, first of all, of Trump blaming Harris and Biden for this apparent attempt at his life, even as they condemn political violence.
Well, I don't think it's really surprising, Wolf. We don't even know the motivations of this would-be shooter. We know very little about him now. And the first time this happened to Donald Trump, when he was actually shot, he sang a different tune. He was calling for civility. He said, I'm going to be nice now. And at this point, he is no longer doing that.
Just think about what these people are saying, and just think about how demented and how crazy and how tone deaf you got to be in order to go on TV and say something like this, right? She says, after the first time someone tried to kill the guy, he wanted to talk about unity. He wanted to bring down the rhetoric. And now that people just keep trying to kill him, it looks like that's out the window. And just think about that, right? Think about that. Is that on him or is that on them? The left had every single opportunity to take down the rhetoric, whatever they mean by that. They had every opportunity, but Kamala Harris stood on the debate stage and peddled every crazy, every lazy debunked narrative about Donald Trump that's ever been tried. I mean, all basically back to back. Donald Trump is a danger, he's a dictator, promised a bloodbath if he's not elected. I mean, and on and on and on. And even during that debate, Trump said to her, looked her right in the eyes and said, talk like that almost got my freaking head blown off. But they don't care. They don't give up. They can't turn it off, right? So, I mean, think about it. What do these people actually expect? I mean, how many times do you let people try to end your life before enough is enough? I mean, they're blaming Donald Trump for the fact that people want to kill him. They're victim blaming. That's what they're doing. They're victim blaming. Some of them are even trying to imply that he deserves it. I mean, he deserves to be shot at. They believe he deserves to die for saying that Haitians are eating freaking pets.
Is no longer doing that. He's decided to point a finger at Kamala Harris, even though he is a candidate who has called the other side vermin and who constantly says if they're elected, you're not going to have a country anymore. There's a little bit of this going on both sides, this sort of that each side sees the other side as an existential threat to America. But I think it's a little rich for Trump to say, this is Kamala Harris's doing when we know very, very little about this man and what his motives were.
Yeah, good point. S.E. Cupp, how dangerous are these Trump comments during this already rather tense moment for the country?
Very. And look, I agree with the ecumenical sentiment that rhetoric and words matter and that we should tone down the divisive rhetoric. However, as Gloria is pointing out, you can't have it both ways. You can't say that bomb threats on Springfield, Ohio, schools and hospitals have nothing to do with Trump and the Trump campaign. You can't say Trump has no responsibility for an attack on Paul Pelosi, no responsibility for Jan 6th, no responsibility for threats against election workers, no responsibility for threats against Dr. Fauci and health administrators. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So
hear what she's saying, man. You got to listen to these people real close. Just hear what she's saying. The people who really, really do believe, or they expect you to believe, that they hold no responsibility for wacko after wacko after leftist wacko coming for Donald Trump, say that you can't say he doesn't hold any responsibility for bomb threats in Ohio, which we now know are all frauds. They're all perpetrated by foreign actors in foreign countries. And we knew this days before S.E. Cupp said any of this, right? We also know that Paul Pelosi was attacked by a deranged leftist illegal immigrant, right? We know that her entire list has virtually nothing to do with Donald Trump or J.D. Vance or any other Republican or anyone else that she would like to vilify, right? What we know is we know that these people would rather continue to, peddle Trump deranged insanity than to actually get on the air and deliver anything accurate to their viewers. They believe it's the fault of guns. They believe it's the fault of Donald Trump. And this is how you know these people are about to lose their power, right? They are completely losing their minds.
Look, when you've had this kind of language about somebody be the underpinning of a campaign for years and intensely for the last several months, the only way to unwind it is for the people who've been saying it, chiefly the president and the vice president, to go on TV and say, you know what? We went too far, and what we said, honestly, is not true. The country will not end.
Okay, I think the Democrats will tamp down their language about Trump. The moment Trump tamps down his language about the Democrats, about immigrants, about people of color, about women, and not a moment before.
What about how many times are we going to shoot at him?
Is your argument literally
Wait a minute, but
that you are not under threat unless somebody directly takes a shot at you? Is that actually what you're saying? Do you have access to Secret Service files about how many threats Harris and Biden have received over the past year? How many threats Barack Obama, the first black president, received for 8 years while he was in the White House? Do you have those Secret Service files, or are you just out here talking because somebody was caught in the bushes on Saturday? If you want something done, if you want to get away from from this violence and hatred, the clearest thing to do is to take away the weapons that these people are using to cause the violence and hatred. Rhetoric does not kill people. Guns do.
So you're
It's crazy, man. These people are freaking insane. I honestly cannot stand that particular guy. He's one of the worst freaking humans that comes on TV. Just purely and just corrupt, just completely insane, right? Intellectually corrupt, morally corrupt. He says that Democrats, they're not going to tone down the rhetoric basically until Donald Trump just completely shuts up. That's what he says. He says that if Donald Trump wants to be safe, he can just shut up and go away. That's basically what he just said. I mean, this is what they're all saying. You know, people believe, these kinds of people believe that he's got it coming for whatever he said about immigrants or women or black people or whatever they believe he said that they can't actually tell you exactly. They can't tell you what he said. They'll never be able to tell you what he said. They never have been able to tell you what he said. But they can tell you that he deserves to be shot because of it, right? I mean, it's completely insane. I mean, this is who these people really are. This is what these people really believe in. And this is why they're going to lose their power. You know, this is why they're going to lose their control, because they just can't turn it off. And they're going to stop. They will stop at nothing until they have destroyed Donald Trump and everything that he stands for, man. And I'm telling you, man, it's beginning to really, really look like and really, really feel like that if you want Donald Trump to remain alive and free, alive and not imprisoned or destroyed in some other creative leftist way, if you want those things, then we have got to elect the guy president. These people will not stop. I mean, this right here, this is just one day after the second assassination attempt.
And I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist Harry Evans, one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said, I mean, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump. His demagoguery, his danger to our country and the world, and stick with it.
I don't have to tell you guys, man, that is easily one of the most evil and heartless people on the entire planet, man. And really, she is the perfect reminder of Donald Trump's original sin. This is where it all started. The very moment that he denied Hillary Clinton her rightful place on the throne, that is when Donald Trump had to be destroyed. And they've been trying in clever way after not so clever way. They've been trying to destroy the guy ever since. And really, man, especially if you look at it in the aggregate, it is truly, truly amazing, man. The amount of fight, the amount of conviction that Donald Trump has shown is without a doubt truly incredible, right? But this is who these people are. And this is the head witch one day after they again tried to kill the guy, after someone again tried to kill the guy. And this is the kind of people that just get paraded out onto these lefty networks, man. This is their call to rally the next round of Democrat crazies, right? And thankfully, there are few people who actually make it a habit to go onto these networks and to tell truths. Guys like Scott Jennings, man, who I think honestly may actually be finally reaching his breaking point with these people.
The rhetoric is on both sides. It's coming from the right, it's coming from the left.
The rhetoric, they have tried to kill this man twice, okay? He got shot in the ear, and this guy was sitting up shop outside of a golf course to try to kill him this weekend. And I know after something like this happens, it's very fashionable to, talk about rhetoric on both sides. Donald Trump is the target, okay? He's the current target, and it's happening, and it's happened again. And honestly, we have to have a conversation about elections. If you lose an election, the country's not going to come to an end, okay? What I want Democrats to do, honestly, is to say, it's okay. Like, if Donald Trump wins, democracy will not end, the Constitution will not end, we're not going to live in a dictatorship, there will not be a bloodbath. All the things they say that are totally fabricated, to me, it would be a good day to stop doing that. The most important thing that could possibly happen, in my opinion, is for everybody to agree, especially Democrats, that the country is not going to be irreparably damaged if Democrats lose, that our Constitution is not going to go away, democracy is not going to come to an end, there will be no bloodbath, there will be no dictatorship on day one, which they all say all day long on this network and others. If everyone could just agree that kind of hyperbolic, statement will not take place anymore and that it's not been true every time it's been said, that would be a step in the right direction. And I know everybody's talking today about all the rhetoric in this country and what are we going to do to fix it going forward. Folks, it's too late. It's too late, in my opinion, because all the rhetoric about Donald Trump over the last several years, that he's a threat to democracy, that the country will come to an end if he gets elected president again. You know, even over the weekend, we have people blaming him and J.D. Vance for a bomb threat in Springfield. Well, if you have believed that over the weekend, then how can you not believe that the rhetoric leading up to today is not somehow responsible for the fact that this man has now survived 2 assassination attempts? So what I want Democrats to do, honestly, is to say, it's okay. Like, if Donald Trump wins, democracy will not end, the Constitution will not end, we're not going to live in a dictatorship, there will not be a bloodbath. All the things they say that are totally fabricated, to me, it would be a good day to stop doing that.
Well said, man. But I mean, a good day to stop doing that would have been, I don't know, probably years and years ago. But these people, they will not stop the rhetoric. They can't stop the rhetoric. I mean, some of these people have so much of their own identity and their own livelihood, basically. It's all tied up in all things Trump deranged, right? They're not going to stop. Even if they wanted to, I don't think they could. You got to remember, man, these are the same people. These are some of the same people that think that Donald Trump should die in prison because he sent money to a freaking porn star, right? Of course, they don't care if some freaking lunatic tries to decide the election with a weapon. They do not care. Most of them were probably smart enough to recognize that it might be the only possible way that their side ever wins again at this point, right? And it's crazy. I'm going to show you more of really a truly insane panel on CNN. I'm going to show it to you because I think it really is the perfect example of who these people are and what they believe, right? But first, they all keep parroting the same things. What about Donald Trump? And what about the Haitians? And what about bomb threats in Ohio? What about Trump? And if you break all that down, man, I think it's pretty clear what they're doing. I don't think they give a shit about Haitians. I don't think they care about any bomb threats. I don't think they care about talking about why this keeps happening or what's causing it. They're just deflecting, right? They are just, all they're interested in is deflecting. And if they have to literally blame Donald Trump for his own assassination attempts in order to deflect, then that's what they're going to do, right? They know they can't talk about it, right? They can't talk about it without having to change everything about who they are and what they say and how they do their job. And again, man, Scott Jennings is doing everything he possibly can to make these people at least recognize and just reconcile their own culpability.
Him for what happened, of course. In our country, you do not decide political disputes through violence. But the problem is that we have too much hate speech right now. And we are creating.
Give me an example. What do you mean by hate speech? Because I want to specifically know. Because I think I know what it is, but I'm interested in what you think about this. Because I agree with you. I do think we have too much hate speech. But give me an example.
I would say when you use the term vermin to describe your political opponents.
So you think it's Trump's fault that he got shot, or
you just said that's what he thought.
Thank you, Scott. I won't step in that trap. That's not what I said. There is no place in this country for violence. But let's be honest about why we have so much tension in this country. When you dehumanize people, you are using the rhetoric of the 30s. I'm not going to say which country in the 30s, but when you dehumanize people, you make it easier for disturbed minds to do the wrong thing. And let me just remind you of something. In 2019, Donald Trump said that the internet is a dangerous avenue, to radicalize disturbed minds. He was right.
Yeah.
And he should remind us.
None of this is new. And I do.
This guy's supposed to be, I don't know, some kind of leading genius presidential historian, right? And honestly, he seems pretty Trump deranged at first glance. And obviously, he wouldn't probably be there if he wasn't. And he's not going to say it, right? But I'm telling you, man, I would almost guarantee that not only does he believe that it's all Donald Trump's fault, I think he probably believes that the attacks are somehow justified, man. It's really kind of wild to watch these people pretend that they actually care about violence. I mean, the same people who are literally silent when Jewish kids are attacked on college campuses, they're the same people who are literally silent when entire towns are burned to the ground in the name of racial justice or whatever the hell you want to call it. They're the same people who blame Donald Trump for getting shot at while dishing out some of the most empty, of empty platitudes about how there's just no place for violence in America, man. It's completely freaking see-through, man. As you watch more of this, man, just please watch this guy's just crazy face.
Do you think there is a level of tolerance when it comes to violent speech about Trump? Since 2016, we had Kathy Griffith showing basically his head severed. There were people putting on Shakespeare in the Park plays where they had him as Julius Caesar.
Her career was kind of ruined after that, so there wasn't a lot of tolerance.
I think there's a level of violent rhetoric that has been directed at him, but that's happened for 10 years.
It's been normalized, but it's been normalized and adopted as part of one party's platform for president this year. The country will cease to exist if Donald Trump wins. There will be no more democracy.
Joe Biden isn't the Biden campaign. Listen,
hey, look, wait. No. Why don't I get to finish? Everybody gets to finish.
No, go ahead.
Scott, let's let Scott finish, and then I have something to say.
You know, the Constitution won't exist. There'll be a bloodbath. He's going to be a dictator. When you effectively radicalize millions of people into believing that if an electoral outcome doesn't go our way, they're no longer going to be living in the country they thought they were, what do you expect to happen? Now, I agree with you. There is too much hate speech. I'm in total agreement with you, and I hear what you're saying. But I have to say, when I see what Democratic politicians say about Donald Trump, when I see what Democratic commentators say about Donald Trump, and their platform is built on a bunch of lies, frankly, that are designed to radicalize a political base, it makes me wonder, how much do they really care about the violence that you and I both agree is terrible?
I have that same question.
They care about the violence very much, man. I believe they care that it continues. I mean, literally, just look at their power. The Democrat Party's power, it depends on people living in fear, right? It, without a doubt, depends on people believing that everything ends if Donald Trump is elected, because they have no other message. You know, they can't run on the economy. They can't run on public safety. They can't run on national security. They can't even freaking run on abortion anymore. They've been running on abortion for 60 freaking years. But now that issue belongs to the states. So they invented caring about democracy, right? And here's the thing. No one is going to be concerned with the safety or state of democracy in a peaceful, stable nation. They absolutely depend on this kind of dysfunction, right? And it's remarkable to me that more people don't actually recognize it, man. I can't believe that more of us don't see it, man. But Scott's right. I mean, there absolutely is a tolerance of violent rhetoric against Donald Trump, and there has been for a very, very long time. And, you know, he's right. Again, the entirety of the Democrat platform is built on lies that are meant to just radicalize unthinking liberals.
Question, you know, for Trump, because you're talking about, okay, this is Donald Trump on September 10th. That's 6 days ago. If she ever got elected, she'd change it. It will be the end of our country. She's Marxist.
It's funny, man. Even in their own explanation of how and why Donald Trump deserves everything that's happening to him, they can't grapple with the truth, man. They think that Donald Trump calling Kamala Harris a Marxist who would change everything she could about our country, which, you know, by Kamala Harris's own actions and own words, I think that's proven pretty true. But they believe that those words is the same thing as this.
Having Trump not only have had the codes, but now having the classified information for Americans and being able to put that out and share it in his resort with anyone and everyone who comes through should be terrifying to all Americans, and he needs to be stopped.
Maybe that's a Freudian slip. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But I can appreciate someone overlooking that. But what about the people that really aren't all that ambiguous about it?
It is just unquestionable at this point that man cannot see public office again. He is not only unfit, he is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated.
Yeah. So Dan Goldman on MSNBC, and by the way, on Dan Goldman, I owe Connecticut an apology. I don't know why I thought Dan Goldman belonged to Connecticut. He doesn't. He's a New Yorker. But Dan Goldman goes on MSNBC. And he says Donald Trump must not be allowed to hold public office ever again. He's unfit, he's destructive to our democracy, and he's got to be eliminated, right? But to hear the left, man, that's just First Amendment protected speech by a public official. But Donald Trump calling guys like him and everybody like him vermin, well, that's hate speech, because some evil German said it almost 100 freaking years ago, right? He said vermin, and it's it's no wonder they're taking shots at the guy. He called someone vermin. I mean, can you even believe? I don't know how these people can even stand to listen to themselves freaking talk.
He shared a social media video of Joe Biden tied up in the back of a pickup truck. He's called his political opponents vermin. Trump is not the best messenger for this, but it isn't.
Well, you're a pretty good messenger when you get shot and then nearly get shot again. I think that makes you a fairly credible messenger.
For what? Here's the conversation I think that Tim is trying to have, which is that this has been a political climate in the country writ large for almost a decade of heightened, political animosity. And a lot of people deserve blame for that, but Trump is not without, Trump's hands are not clean in this.
Are they? I'm just asking.
You're not saying it, are you? Because in my view, both candidates have actually said.
I guess I'm going to be the only one out here that's not going to blame Donald Trump for his two near assassinations.
No.
I mean, honestly,
it's not about.
He's the one being shot at. He's a target. He's not saying he can't even walk outside of his own house.
We started the conversation by saying,
at his own peril.
We started the conversation by saying that this is not about assigning political blame. Trump is the one today assigning political blame. He is assigning political blame.
Do you think he's earned any right to assign or ascribe blame to the two attempts on his life?
Wait, so if you get shot at, you can say that somebody should shoot my opponents? That's the rule. If somebody shoots at you, you can be like, oh, somebody should shoot at them? Because if you look at Trump's tweet today, what he said today was that Harris was an enemy from within and that she will destroy the country if she gets elected. Now, personally, I do not feel comfortable having yet another conversation about the horrible gun violence in this country without talking about the guns. Because I agree with Tim. I want this political violence to stop. And to me, I would propose a solution to this. I call it the Protect Trump at all costs assault weapons ban. If we want to protect our political leaders, if we want to protect people who don't have an elite fighting force, protecting them 24/7. One of the best things we can do, not just for Trump, but for all potential victims of gun violence, is to ban assault weapons, to ban the AR-14, and to ban the weapons of terror that these crazy people use to menace not just our leaders, but everybody else in the country.
Guns don't have radical ideology, but human beings do.
Okay, so ideologies kill people, not guns.
And this guy said...
Yeah, that is actually exactly right. Ideologies kill people. Guns do not kill people, not all by themselves. An AR-14 never killed anybody all by itself. In fact, an AR-14, I'm pretty sure never killed anybody, period. But I mean, just listen to these people cope, man. Donald Trump was nearly assassinated twice, and it's the fault of Donald Trump. It's the fault of his rhetoric. It's the fault of guns all by themselves. And of course, Democrats and corporate media forces that have vilified the guy for a freaking decade, they're completely clean. Nothing to see here. And not only are they clean, but they get to use it now to push more laws and more gun control that wouldn't have done a thing in the first place. I mean, the shooter is a many times convicted felon. He's not even legally allowed to possess a freaking bullet, let alone a gun. More laws for him and less guns for you are never, ever going to change anything.
And this guy setting up shop in the bushes outside of a golf course, it wasn't the gun that made him do it.
Yeah, the mental instability.
Something got to this guy.
These people, both of these people were mentally unstable,
but he believed
and nobody prevented them.
He believed Donald Trump needed to be eliminated, and he almost did it. Thank God for the Secret Service. Yes. How many more attempts are we going to? How many more are we going to have?
That's the
point.
We're already
I think that's an important point. We've had guns for a long time, unfortunately. There's always been a lot of mentally unstable people in the country.
Yes.
So what is it that's going on right now? And
there
I think
are a lot more guns now.
It is an issue. There aren't that many more guns than there were a year ago. When you look at where we are now, though, I mean, this is clearly a Secret Service issue. This is a failure, I think, on their part to not identify and then blame a slanted roof and shrubbery.
I think that you're exactly right. I mean, look, that's such an important part of this conversation. Again, there are issues here. There are issues at play. But I am actually genuinely baffled by the choice to, within 24 hours of this thing happening, make it about, blaming Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, who immediately condemned it and saying that they put this crazy guy up to this.
I think he's allowed to get freaked out.
What Abby Phillips is trying to say, again, is that Donald Trump should just turn the other cheek, right? Call for more unity, take the opportunity to just rise above it all. But I mean, come on, man, just be real. How many times do you expect the guy to do that? You know, he did that the first time. The media went back to vilifying the guy basically within hours, you know, and then it happened again. I mean, enough is enough. I mean, she says Kamala Harris denounced it. What does that even mean, denounce it? You know, when your political rival is almost killed twice, it's not enough to just release some HR-produced freaking vanilla statement, right? And then just go right back to calling the guy a racist, dangerous would-be dictator. Those are just words, man. This is not a time for words. This is a time for action. You know, get on TV and tell all your radicalized, Jew-hating, Republican-fearing, crazy base to knock it off. I mean, Abby Phillips, she doesn't want to reconcile the fact that it's literally Kamala's fault, because if she reconciled that, she'd have to admit her own part in it too.
He has gotten shot at. So like,
course.
I'm kind of okay with that.
Of course, he's allowed to be freaked out, but to blame, but to say without any evidence that this was
he
because
should have
of
shut up, right? He should have shut up because that doesn't help. And I think if you're being politically honest, the way I want to be politically honest right now, this has come from both sides of them. You know, when we talk about the enemy of the state, this country will never be the same. You know, Joe Biden has done that just as many times as Donald Trump has done that. And they both have said that. The one thing about Kamala Harris is I would say that she's actually tried to bring a little more levity to the country and to these conversations, which I think is useful.
Again, man, these freaking people, man, every single time something like this happens, it's always the same move. They want to talk about both sides. You know, when Steve Scalise was shot, there was no both sides. There was no accountability. It was all about unity. But when Gabby Giffords was shot, it was the fault of Sarah Palin, right? And all the other Republican gun nuts. They were responsible. It's always the same thing when it's a Republican. You know, it's both sides this, both sides that, and just blah, blah, blah. Both sides is garbage. You have never, ever, ever heard a Republican politician or any conservative network talk about or platform someone saying that the other guy needs to be eliminated. It has never happened. It never will happen. And it's never going to happen because the two sides, they're just not the same, man. And it's never been any more evident than it is right now. I mean, it's literally bullets are only going one damn direction, right? And it's going to stay that way because the left has just become so incredibly crazy. They become crazy people. And here's the thing, man. If there is any silver lining in any of this, if anything good does come from this, it's got to be that people finally open their eyes and see what's happening, because normal, critically thinking, objectively minded people, they recognize that it is not normal in a modern day society of any kind for one side to be dodging freaking bullets. And it's even less normal for that person to get blamed and vilified further when the bullets miss, and vilified by the very, very same media that's supposed to be delivering the facts. And people see this. People have got to see this, man. And honestly, I think people do, man. You know, when it's not just on the crazy networks like MSNBC or the operatives like people like Abby Phillips, when Lester freaking Holt tells probably a lot of normal people to watch him that, yeah, he got shot at, but don't worry, it was right after he said some dumb shit about Haitians. That's the kind of stuff that wakes people up.
Today's apparent assassination attempt comes amid increasingly fierce rhetoric on the campaign trail itself. Mr. Trump, his running mate J.D. Vance continue to make baseless claims about Haitian immigrants in Ohio. This weekend, there were new bomb threats in that town. Our Maggie Vespa is in Columbus, Ohio, with more.
Lester, simply put, Springfield, Ohio has been inundated by threats over the last several days, closing government buildings, schools, hospitals, today effectively closing a local university campus after administrators said someone threatened a mass shooting targeting Haitians. This in light of, officials say, a false online conspiracy theory alleging Haitian immigrants in that city are eating people's pets.
I'm telling you, man, when Lester Holt implies to his viewers that Donald Trump brought the violence upon himself, that has got to wake people up, right? And if you believe the polls, if you believe Nate Silver especially, people are waking up. You know, people see Kamala Harris being protected by the media. You know, they saw the 3-on-1 debate. They see the gutless coverage of the second assassination attempt in as many months. And they're starting to recognize exactly what's going on. And I think a lot of normal people are starting to see exactly what's at stake. And I don't think they're going to let these people get away with it this time. But that's all I got, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.